The honourable member Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to rise on behalf of the health-conscious constituents in the riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. And for anyone tuning in tonight, you may be wondering why we are talking about health products, even though the bottom of your screen says this is a debate on Bill C-69, an act to implement certain provisions of the budget. The short answer is the Prime Minister broke his promise to end the use of omnibus bills. Like a living, breathing, hold my beer meme, these Liberals clearly thought the last government wasn't omnibusing hard enough. This bill is so obese, it's even cornering the market in Ozempic. Ironically, this budget implementation bill gives the Minister of Health and Anti-Tourism brand new powers to make Ozempic illegal for weight loss for everyone else. Since the Liberals started bragging about taking away people's drug plans and forcing everyone into a one-size-fits-all, Ottawa knows best, Soviet-style drug plan, I've had one question. When Canada finds itself in the next drug shortage, how will the Liberals decide who lives and who dies? Not a single member from the Socialist Coalition has been willing to address the question, but the Budget Implementation Bill Division 31 provides a sinister answer. The government will do whatever it wants. Here's what the weighty omnibus bill says, quote, the governor in council may make any regulations that the governor in council considers necessary for the purpose of preventing shortages of therapeutic products or foods for a special dietary purpose in Canada or alleviating those shortages or their effects in order to protect human health. End quote. Now, if you take the word of the officials from Health Canada, all they're seeking is the power to import baby formula without bilingual labeling. But if that were true, if the government's real intent was for a temporary emergency measure, the amendment would have been limited in scope and time. Instead, this government went with the kind of language which maximizes power and minimizes oversight. Here's the language the government originally sought for the therapeutic products. Quote, if the minister believes that the use of a therapeutic product, other than the intended use, may present a risk of injury to health, the minister may, by order, establish rules in respect of the importation, sales, conditions of sale, advertising, manufacture, preparation, preservation, packaging, labeling, storage, or testing of the therapeutic product for the purpose of preventing, managing, or controlling the risk of injury or death, end quote. Credit goes to the members of the Finance Committee for adding an amendment to insert the words on reasonable grounds into that section, but it doesn't matter. Quote, the minister may make the order despite any uncertainty respecting the risk of injury to health that the use of the therapeutic product other than the intended use may present, end quote. Madam Speaker, that's quite a power grab. This NDP Liberal government is literally saying it doesn't need evidence to support their radical policy. In fact, the Liberals are saying that any evidence which contradicts their policy can be ignored. This isn't the Liberal government gagging scientists. This is the Liberal government gagging science, handcuffing science, and taking science out back and executing it gangland style. If we take the word of the bureaucrats from Health Canada, the minister needs these extraordinary powers to prevent teenagers from consuming nicotine pods. But if that were true, if this was only about preventing nicotine addiction amongst youth, what explains the very next section? Quote, an order made under subsection 30.01 or 30.02 that applies to only one person is not a statutory instrument within the meaning of the Statutory Instruments Act, end quote. The Minister of Unhealthy Road Trips will have the power to pass a regulation to prevent a single person from promoting a health product. And not just promoting. The minister could regulate a single person with respect to importation, sale, conditions of sale, advertising, manufacture, preparation, preservation, packaging, labeling, storage, or testing of the drug. Even more concerning is that these regulations targeting a single individual won't be considered regulations under the Statutory Instruments Act. Between this section and the section on uncertainty, the government has essentially neutralized the rights of Canadians to appeal these regulations to the federal court. This is an unprecedented power grab by the technocrats at Health Canada. And given the arrogance on regular display by the car-phobic Minister of Health, it would not take much to convince me that he is the one seeking the radical, unreviewable powers. Whether his lust for power is rooted in the repeated childhood traumas of station wagon vacations with his parents is not for me to say. But if this language was included in a conservative bill, he would be among the first to accuse us of having a hidden agenda. With just the flick of a wrist, this Minister of Health or the next one could ban any drug based on some vague concern about health. Now, as a parliamentarian, I oppose giving any government, Liberal or Conservative, this level of unchecked power. Health Canada's technocrats will claim this is the same as the regulations limiting alcohol and tobacco advertisements. It's not. This law would give the Minister of Health the power to shut down a single podcaster or TikToker who advertises health products. They could shut down an Instagram influencer who talks about Chinese herbal remedies. The government hasn't gone so far as to give itself the power to issue secret orders. Instead, they just gave themselves the power to issue an order against a single person, not disclose the person's identity, not disclose the actual health risk, and not to have to publish it in the Gazette. Health Canada could destroy a person's livelihood by publishing a single sentence in an obscure webpage buried deep in some government website. If anyone doubts the Socialist Coalition is capable of that, remember, these are amendments to the Food and Drug Act buried deep in a budget implementation bill. These changes were not even given a mention in the actual budget. Instead, the government promised it would spend $3.2 million to update Health Canada's supply management capacity over the next 3 years. Now, it takes a special kind of liberal arrogance to believe government can manage a supply of drugs for over 40 million people. They can't manage passports. They can't manage to recruit anyone into the military. They can't manage an app for collecting travelers' information. They can't manage the graft at the Sustainable Technology Development Corporation. They can't manage the self-dealing within the local journalism initiative. This Prime Minister can't even manage a cabinet. As a former Liberal cabinet minister said last week, this government has been drinking from a fountain of socialist bafflegab. The technocrats who've been voicing this as finance minister believe Canadians would be happier if Canadians were taxed at over 50%. The only thing socialists can manage are breadlines. With the median age around 40, that means nearly half of Canadians were born after the collapse of the last socialist empire. They don't know about breadlines. They don't know about that Soviet-style socialist drug plans mean Canadians will have to line up for life-saving medicines. The well-connected and the wealthy can bait people in line to wait for them. The poor and the marginalized will have to take a day or two off work and wait in line at the government pharmacy. And just like the Soviet Union, when reality fails to conform to communist ideology, the government will ratchet up repression. If rebellious reporters speak up about the drug shortages, the government can accuse them of putting the health of Canadians at risk and issue an order silencing them. The reporters could take the minister to court, but when the judge asks the government lawyers, how certain are you that this censorship will protect the public health, the government can reply, not certain at all, Your Honor, and the judge would have no choice but to rule in the government's favor. If you think this sounds unconstitutional, you'd be right, but it wouldn't matter. The Liberals would use their favorite notwithstanding clause called Section 1. We saw it time and time again during the pandemic. Governments issued unconstitutional orders, citizens took them to court, and judges ruled they weren't health experts and would defer to the government's experts. With the precedent set, The technocrats at Health Canada saw it as a green light to seek more power. The Ministry of Health already has the power to ban a drug or recall it or place any number of conditions on its sale. They already have the power, but it wasn't enough for them. Like our Prime Minister, who admires the communists who control China, they want the kind of power only communism can grant them.